So today I'm talking about the benefits of not having resilience. And that's kind of a big one because resilience has kind of been a buzzword for quite a while. And if you think about the current situation, the current crisis that we have with coronavirus, a lot of people will be thinking about resilience, and a lot of people thinking that it's something that they need more of, and more of, and more of. A lot like other things that we could mention, which I won't because I'm tired of talking about stockpiling and things like that. So the question is, why would we want to look at not having resilience? Why would we want to embrace not having resilience? That's a really good question. And one of the answers really came with, I was rereading my book this morning, The Fear of Success book, Pearl Escape's Fear of Success. And I have a chapter that talks about a very specific moment in life. And when I say it, I think you're going to recognize it, and you'll have heard of this expression before. And when I talk about this moment, hopefully this will become a bit clearer. And what I'm talking about is a thing that we call the wall. Now, if any of you ever, seen any sporting events or really talking about marathons, when somebody runs a marathon, very often there is a point that they hit, which they call the wall. Now, the wall is the point when your mind says, I can't do this. And very often it's when the body also says, I can't do this. When you reach a certain level of pain, a certain level of lack of resources, a certain level of feeling that you can't go on. And we kind of know from past experience that that's not really true, that we can keep going, even when the mind says no, even when the body says no. And, probably, I don't know, trying to think about this, can we keep going when the spirit says no? I think there probably are moments when we feel like emotionally we've given up. But the wall is something very special. And what I really refer to it as in my book and in life is it's a moment of truth. It's a moment of truth when we keep going. And we keep going despite lack of faith, despite lack of belief. So our mind says, I can't do this. The body says, stop. But somehow we keep on going. Something keeps us going forward. And that moment of truth, that moment of I don't have anything left, but somehow I keep digging deeper and I keep finding more, is a very special moment. And it's a bit like a lot of people who do extreme athletic events and things like that, they go and look for that. Because there's something about the truth and the beauty of that moment. And when I did the Camino de Santiago, I remember the day, I think I had so many days. And some of those days were when I realised that I couldn't make it to the destination that I had planned. So there was a moment when I thought, I have to ask for help and I have to stop here. So the moment of truth was not about continuing to that final point. The moment of truth was realising that I didn't know what I'd got myself into and I needed to call for help. But sometimes, other days I got to that point and I could have stopped. But I thought, no, I'm going to carry on to the destination I was hoping to get to today. And when I did that, when I was walking, there was a kind of a purity and a sort of in letting go of, in not having the energy to keep maintaining certain psychological beliefs, not having the energy to hold on to things, I had to let go. And so again, it was a moment of truth in terms of having to deal with what I had been resisting dealing with. And I also remember when I flew into a retreat in Mexico, And I remember being in the airport and being so fried because the journey had been so challenging. And we were all gathered in like a coffee shop in the airport, and there were all these sort of, mung bean people, and I say that with love. I call us mung bean people with love. And everybody was talking, about different things and concepts and da da da, and it was all very like who can out spiritual the other one, really, in a way. And I think, one way I had been in the past would have been to sit there and try and impress them and try to fit in and try to be something. And really, I remember at that time, somebody was talking about, I don't know, how we, get on the path or how we let go of things. And I think I just said something like, just being so bloody tired, you don't care what anybody thinks anymore. And you just say what you mean, and and sometimes that's that lack of resilience, that really going to the wire. It makes us very truthful. Sometimes painfully so to people around us. And, if you've ever been very, very ill or with somebody who is very ill, you know there's not a lot of sweet talk sometimes. Sometimes it gets pretty raw. And but sometimes the things that are said in those moments are important. Maybe good, maybe bad, but important. And why am I talking about this? You know why I'm talking about this. Because in this current situation, in this current climate, most of us are having moments, maybe moments each day, when we're hitting the wall. And I don't mean like, your mum or dad, hits the wall when they get angry. Although it could be angry, it could be annoyed, it could be with other people. But we're hitting our limits so often. And it doesn't matter how much we thought we'd prepared. I've spent years training in all kinds of meditation and going around the world, and I have a stockpile of memories, and I have a big, big family, and I don't have much money, but, money doesn't really help that much right now for a lot of things. It hasn't been the issue, really. For most of us, the things that we would like are things that are not often bought. They're the privileges that we've taken for granted. But I don't want to get into that because I know there's a lot about that at the moment. What I really, really wanted to share with you guys was that it's very clear. People are showing who they are at the moment with their actions, with their words. And it's very easy and clear to see the people who are just trying to maintain business as normal. So somebody put, actually, again, coming to thinking about fashion earlier, and somebody put a meme, whatever, of Miranda Priestley from The Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep, sort of looking at the girl who's not really dressed up in fashion and thinking, you think this doesn't have anything to do with you? This is not about you. And unfortunately for most of us, it is about us. It is massively impacting us. And a lot of people have been able to insulate themselves to a degree. And whether it's just sitting watching the, box sets or something like that don't have any kind of real or everyday stuff going on, whether it's diving into books, whether it's just making plans for when this is all over. There are a lot of ways we can avoid this situation. And if that's your choice and that's what you want to do, then absolutely fair play to you and good luck to you. But I think there's a joy in hitting the wall. I think that the biggest joy in the end will be that we were present for other people in our lives, for our families and friends, but also for ourselves, that we were present here for ourselves in this moment. Because no matter what the mind and the ego thinks is going on, something is happening right now. And a lot of people, a lot of us are kind of postponing action. Or we're taking an immediate action, which is about, being smart, like let's go and get lots of shopping, or let's go and do this, and let's go and do that. But we're not really allowing ourselves to feel our feelings in the present moment. And that's my practice, really, is to try and feel my feelings every day. Not necessarily all day at the moment. I'm diving into movies at times, and just the basics of sometimes just cleaning, just to kind of get through the more difficult times. And you'll find that in pretty much every retreat around the world, that there's a point when people are quite happy to clean a floor or do a bit of gardening or something like that, because it gives you a sort of relaxed kind of feeling of doing something at the same time as resting your brain. And sometimes we just need a little rest. But like I say, this is a difficult moment for many people. And this is a moment where we hit the wall and we have to make decisions about what is important to us and who is important to us. And if we just kind of pretend that everything's okay, if we don't engage, then to be honest, I'm trying to think of somebody I actually know who is in this state, because most of the people I know are very connected and they're very switched on to what's going on, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to be present with other people at this moment, and to kind of to hold each other. And that sounds weird, but this morning I did a class and we had 4 other people in there, and just across the divide and the space and time, we looked at each other and we were there for each other, and we were holding each other even though we weren't physically connected. And there's something very beautiful about that, and there's something very beautiful about every little text that we get or give at the moment. And I think for me, there's it's very clear who is alive in this moment. And I think that's one of the things about the wall. It really makes you feel, it kind of makes everything very raw and very simple. And I think in a lot of ways that's what this virus and this situation is doing for many of us, to come back to the basics of what we are, what we desire and what we want in life, which is to be well and to be healthy, and for the people we love to be well and to be healthy, and to be able to eat and that kind of thing, and what we do to get us through, whether that's eating lots and lots of chocolate bars or whether it's getting lost in books and things like that. And the reason I'm saying all this is not to judge anybody, but to just say it's your choice, it's your option, whether you choose to awaken in this moment and be present with life and look out the window and see the beauty and enjoy the moments, or whether you kind of insulate yourself. I'm not talking about self-isolation, I'm talking about self-insulation, where we sort of pretend that this isn't happening, and we pretend that, or we project so far into the future of what's going to happen when this is all done, or we stay in the past and the memories. And like I say, it's like, I did another little video about actually staying in the memories, and it's quite nice, it's pleasant and it's fun. And I will also sit and watch a movie and be an escapist in that sense as well. But I think the thing is, if we don't embrace the work, if we don't embrace how we actually feel in this moment, and we're aware that we don't have any resilience because it's taking everything that we have in the current moment, even when, things are very good and easy for us. It's still a big challenge to be aware of such a huge change in everything and the possibilities and trying to adjust our brains. There's a lot of work that we are doing right now. And also examining, so many of our beliefs as well. So it's a lot. And it's like we're going into this work. Excuse me. And we have the choice, we have the choice to remain insulated or to embrace the wall, embrace when things become difficult for us. Because the thing is, very often when we come to that place where we say, this is really difficult for us, we get to ask why. We get to ask, what is it about this situation that I'm finding so challenging? And it's in those questions and in those answers that we discover who we are. We discover what makes us who we are. And it means we get to choose to do something about it. We get to choose, like I did today, to sit and record a video that, is a strange and weird little video and maybe no one will watch. But that's fine, because in that moment, this was a difficult choice to do. And so it felt like the right thing. Because this felt like a wall to me. This felt like a wall that I needed to go through. And sometimes it's nice to be able to look at things like that without judgment, without necessarily thinking about things logically. Why do I need to walk the Camino de Santiago? Why do I have to go to Bhutan? Why do I have to go to the spa in Thailand? Why do I have to go to Bangkok? In all these places I've been to, there was something that made me want to go there. There was something to pull me through. And it was a wonderful feeling to kind of explore that and to go there intuitively. And intuitively reach out. And sometimes I've gone somewhere intuitively and met the most incredible person. So I think sometimes in that wall we have, there's a sort of an element of raw spirituality, where the mind is kind of freaking out and the body is finding it really, really difficult. There's a moment of being able to hear the spirit and being able to feel the spirit more powerfully than before. And I know it's nothing like the same. But I remember last year when I went up to London, and it turned out to be like the hottest day ever in England. And I had a party and a work and this and that and the other, and I was up in a youth hostel, and it was a really nice place. And I had a really cool room around the back. Everywhere else in the whole world was hotter than that. But it wasn't. I don't know if it was air conditioning or not. It felt like there was a little bit of a cool air coming through. And when I got there, and it was so weird how I turned up on this really, really hot day, and I got this really cool room. And I went out in the evening and I bought food, and then I just sort of stayed there the whole day the next day. It sounds strange, isn't it, saying the whole day I stayed inside, and now I was like, so what? So what? Everybody's doing that all day long, all the time. I hear you. But in that moment, that day when it was so hot, and I was just lying there, so much was happening, so much was going on, so many realizations, so much writing and things like that. And it was strange how that intuition, and now sort of almost accidentally, I had ended up in the perfect spot for me. And there was something about, in that moment, not being able to. I couldn't go outside because it was too hot. I was just there with my water and having to cancel all the classes I was going to. I think I walked to the train station in the evening to go to the party, and everyone's like, no, there's no trains, it's too hot. Okay, I'll go back. But there's something about when our plans get cancelled and we have to like reframe, and we have to like focus on where we are and the truth of what's going on for us, that is a gift. And I'm not saying it in a way of like, oh, you should be grateful for this. Please don't. I'm not saying that at all, at all. I know it's hard, but it's the hard. It's funny. It's really bad. The quote that's coming into my mind is actually from Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own, and it's like he says, it's the hard that makes it great. And that's the truth about going to the place where we have no resilience and where we can't keep going, and somehow we keep going and diving into that moment and not trying to run away from it and not trying to just give up. And it's a place that I'm familiar with as a writer, that it's usually in that moment when there's a chapter or a paragraph or there's something that needs to be written and I can feel it and it needs to come out. And that's when it's so hard. I can write thousands of words on another day and it's easy. And sometimes just those 20 words kill me. And I have to really, really focus on that and be present and write those words. And I'm glad I do. I'm glad I did. So I hope this helps.